Why, hello there, and welcome to the Amateur's Guide for climbing Mount Stromlo, aka your guide to climb to the peak here at the park. So obviously, if you're not aware of what Mount Stromlo is, it is a mountain biking godsend here in Canberra. And we'll start off with Fenceline. So climb to the peak, pretty much most of the good descent trails you'll need this, unless of course you shuttle. And with this climb guide, I'm going to do segment by segment rating. So we start off with Fenceline, it's the lowest, and I'll more or less have the top three as we go up. So Fenceline, more or less going to be the baseline. Off to the left is actually the skills park. So I've been having a lot of fun here at Mount Stromlo as I unlocked my suspension. I came here about 6 years ago, back when I had Titan, and I remembered bits and pieces. So I remember what the good bits were, but I never remembered the climb being so long. Hence why I thought I'd make this climbing guide and shoot off the directions for good trails and just where you can skip some things. So just starting up Cockatoo Switchbacks. So a lot of this climb to the peak, just follow the loop 2 signs. It's pretty well marked out. You're never going to have a trouble following any of these loops. So at the trailhead, there's a nice selection of what the trails do, their difficulty, their ride time, and when you also consult the larger trail map, you get an idea of how much descending and climbing you're going to be doing. So anything that runs along this climb to the peak, it is the maximum amount of climbing you're going to be doing in a single session. So with that out of the way of how easy it is to navigate, here's Cockatoo Switchbacks. I really enjoy this. It's flowy, it has good hairpins. You lose a tiny bit of altitude, but then you gain it back relatively easily. A pretty non-offensive climbing trail, which I quite enjoy. Similar to the old blackout climb at Falls Creek, and has a tiny bit of character for a max head at Derby. Just so you have repeated switchbacks with some technical lines if you want to throw a cheeky shortcut. So for that reason, rather than filming the entirety of Cockatoo Switchback, Cockatoo Switchback now sits at first, and Fenceline is now bumped to second, and that's not going to last long. So we'll continue on to the next junction. Okay, so that is the Cockatoo Switchbacks finished. Now for one of my least favourite parts of the park, which is a road ride. While we're grinding along this little road, now's probably my best chance to drop in brewery recommendation for Canberra. Now the other one's going to come in the descending videos, which is going to be filmed tomorrow with a different bike. Ooh, that'll be fun. But my recommendation for Canberra for this ride is going to be Capital Brewing. It's in Friswick, where there's also 99 bikes and the Trek dealership. So even though it's the other side of Canberra, it's pretty quick. Only took me about 20 minutes, half an hour to get across town. And for a major capital city, as we're going along Blue Gums, that's reasonably quick, so that's good. But Capital Brewing, really solid. When I came here 6 years ago and I really didn't have a tasting palate, I found that they're a bit average. But coming back here and knowing what hazies are, now off to the right, that's Cardiac Arrest. Double Black Diamond line, which will get you up the hill quicker, but at the expense of your heart. So we'll continue along Blue Gums. But coming back here, it is just awesome how good they are. So top recommendations first and foremost, off the top, has to be the Oasis Haze. It got a perfect 5 out of 5 from me. Spoke to the brewer, found out how they brewed it. It's going to be coming into how I do some of my brewing practices. So that's really cool. It has to be the most excited I've been for a beer in a very, very long time. After that, I'd have to say London Calling, an English pale ale, ostensibly British, and probably in the best way possible. I really liked that, and it was quite a surprise. And then, just to make it a nice 3, I'd probably say the Summit. So that's their mid-hazy, so not as strong as their Oasis, as we head up into the bobby pin climb. The Summit, pretty sessionable, not as lush and tropical, but it's really good for a hazy mid. So if you're here in Canberra, you're riding Mount Stromlo, go over to the other side of town, check out Capital Brewing as we continue on. So Blue Gums, a little bit better than Fenceline, so it's going to slot into second place. As we do the bobby pin climb and we meander up, it gets a little bit tighter. There's more of these roots and rocks to contend with. So even though it's great as a green, it's a little bit harder than the other greens. So we're starting to push into blue territory, but still a really great part of the climb. Okay, so this is the end of the hairpin climb. Scenic views, great wind exposure, but you're also exposed to the sun. Have to say, it gets a solid second place. So Cockatoos first, hairpin second, and then Blue Gum third. Fenceline is now pushed out as we begin Emu Run. Now, this is where I had the fond memories. This is barely a climbing trail, like technically it's a bit more descent, but as you can tell by I'm half giggling as I'm starting this up, you know something cool's definitely going to happen. So Emu Run, green grade, again it pushes the boundary of what a green grade should be when we come up to one of the features. But I adore this trail for this very section up here. So a few rocks to climb over. Okay, launch yourself up that. So that's where the climbing part's tricky. But we'll drop the saddle and we go down this rock roll into that exposed rock, into a slight drop into a hairpin. And man, I remember that part so vividly from 6 years ago, and it's where I took the photographic shot of the ride with Titan. I love that Emu Run section there, and seeing as we're nearing the end of the Emu Run, there's really not much left in it. It's no surprise, Emu Run now gets first place. So Emu first, Cockatoo second, hairpin third. So we've now dropped Blue Gum. Sorry, Blue Gum. But as we transition up here, and you can see the road straight ahead, going to be a short liaison on this fire road. It's more of a double track. I don't know where cars would necessarily go, but as we see another number 2 next to it, we are starting the ABC Switchbacks. Sorry about the wind noise, but as I climb up this a little bit, I also forgot to mention a lot of Stromlo's climbs and descents are varied. You're looking at loose on hardpack, very loose, almost sand, exposed rock, both in rock gardens and rock slab, roots, log rollovers, North Shore features. Like, this place has it all. But a lot of these climbing trails, you're just going to be finding exposed rock, loose on hardpack, loose, and roots. Nothing drastically special. As I round the corner and I approach what is potentially one of my points of argument for where this trail ranks. I'd have to say that for me, ABC Switchbacks is going to take, I'd say second place. I was thinking about third place, but I'm thinking a definite second place. Some might argue that it has the same merits as hairpin climb, but with the much better views that I'm getting, and I'm pointing towards them more often, the differences between the more sneaky pro lines, such as this, where you've almost got to jump up that log roll, but then you have this nice green easy climb option. But then you have some pretty approachable A and B lines, where the A is the blue grade, the B is the obvious green. I'd have to say that ABC Switchbacks definitely poises itself as a solid contender for second place. So that's Emu Run first, ABC second, and Cockatoo has now gone into third. So that's the end of the city climb, and it doesn't even get into top three. It's barely looking comparative to Fenceline. It's just a double track in disguise, as a bunch of enduro riders square out behind me, so I might have to move aside. So this is Red Lookout, and this does some interesting things. All right, off to the right there's the much easier line, but I've been training a bit on that more cobbled climb because I need to stop doing such easy climbs. So that is the end of the Red Lookout climb. Now, off to the very hard right is the trebuchet descent, but we're gonna go along tea trees. Where does Red Lookout rank? I'd probably say it's a joint third. So I blast down this little bit of a descent that goes into a climb. I remember this from this morning. The Red Hill Lookout climb gets joint third with Cockatoo Switchbacks, mainly because it has a lot of merits. That it has that technical rock climbing section with the easy parts. There's a cheeky pro line. There's even wooden feature like Skinny, which is the first of the climb. And for what it's worth, it could be the last climb you do before you go down the World Cup downhill or the trebuchet downhill run if you want a blue descent as we go up here. So tea trees barely ranks, more of a descent, and I know I gave that to Emu Run, but like, there wasn't much climbing, there wasn't much descending, barely leaves an impression as we head into Echidna Gap. So Red Hill Lookout is tied with Cockatoos. We still have the Emu Run in the lead, followed by the good old ABC, and now that joint third. But we are now in the Echidna Gap climb, and this is the final climb before you reach the Wedgetail, and this is the boss battle. Already there's a cheeky little pro climb there, very tight hairpin. This morning it was as shaded as it is now. It is tight, it is the last leg. I've been climbing for almost 40 minutes. So this climb can come up and surprise you. Also a little bit alone because of all these pine trees up here. So at the moment, this little boss battle, it's showing something. because I hear what sounded like somebody spitting. Hopefully nobody's injured up here. Inside line, which is pretty sketchy. This rock armoured outside line, as you pick the right line. Split line, watch your wheel placement. Skinny rock knuckle gate. Power up these few rocks. And as you look over the horizon, that is the end. Off to the right is roller coaster. Left is going to be the Wedgetail Eagle. And that gives Echidna Gap the top spot. So Echidna Gap, as I start to go down Western Wedgetail, have a cheeky bit of a descent for watching this climbing video, because this is the beginning of what can be a very good descending run. I'm quite happy that the Echidna Gap is the last, it's the boss battle. It sort of makes you think about taking a break before you bomb the descents. It leads into this superb flow run, which I absolutely love. Of course, Emu Run, it's cheekily a bit of a climb and a bit of a descent, but I'm going to put it in because it's part of the climb to the peak. And then of course the ABC Switchbacks, which are just a nice technical climbing challenge as we blast through here. But as I continue into Skyline, that's your climbing guide. Keep riding, stay awesome.